Oh, hey, hang on just a second. I didn't know you were going to be here. I'm headed out onto the bay for a little bit of fishing. You want to join me? Come on aboard. I love to fish. When I'm not doing art, fishing is my passion. This always reminds me of when I was a little girl. I would often go fishing on the weekends with my dad. He was very good about taking me out either to a local lake or even to my grandparents' pond in their backyard. We would fish all day. Sometimes we would catch something and a lot of times we wouldn't. But when I would catch a fish, oh, it got me so excited. We would bring it in and my dad would clean it, which means kind of cut it up so that we could take it home and eat it. All the way back to the house, I would be thinking about that fish. And of course, by the time I got home, my fish story was a little exaggerated. They call that a fish tale. I would come in and I would tell my mom how it was the biggest fish I had ever caught, how I had fought it for hours and hours and had finally got it ashore. And then I would hand her the baggie with my little bitty fish in it, and she would fix it up just right, and it was always so tasty. Fish tales have been told all around the world for hundreds of years. It always seems by the time the fisherman gets back home, the story will have grown very much. Sometimes people believe us with our fish tales, and sometimes they don't. There's a story about fishermen in Japan and their fish tales, and I can't wait to tell you about it. And have I got a story for you? We're at the fishing spot, so I'm going to get set up, and then I want to tell you all about the Japanese fishermen. By the way, today I'm fishing with live shrimp. And now we'll wait and see. So, about the Japanese fishermen. About 200 years ago, the Japanese fishermen would load up their boats and they would go and spend the day out on the water trying to catch a meal for their family or fish to sell at the market. Sometimes they would fish all day and come back with nothing. Sometimes they would come back with a big catch. And then sometimes they might even catch a very special fish. They would come back, clean their fish for market or for their family, and then the fishermen would gather together and begin to tell their fishing stories, their fishing tales. They would tell of the great big fish they caught or the beautiful fish that they caught, and then the other fishermen would have to decide, is he telling the truth or is he exaggerating? They had to come up with a way to prove what the fishermen had caught. Now, if I were to suddenly catch a great big fish, you better believe I'd get my phone out and I would take a picture standing right by that fish. But 200 years ago, they didn't have cameras. So there was no way really of proving what was caught while they were out fishing. They came up with an idea. The fishermen began to pack their boats with tackle, with fishing poles, with nets. But they also added rice paper, sumi ink, and paintbrushes. They thought, if I caught a really big fish or a really beautiful fish or a very exotic fish, I could make a print of it. If they caught something, they would bring the fish aboard. They would use the sumi ink, which was non-toxic, which means it didn't hurt the fish or the fisherman if he were to eat that fish. They would paint that ink onto the fish, and then they would lay rice paper down and mash the rice paper down onto the inked fish. The fisherman would then slowly lift the paper up, and on the paper would be a perfect imprint of the fish. They called this Gyotaku. Gyo for fish, taku for impression or print. Then they had proof of what they had caught. They would roll the Gyotaku paper up and store it, and then return the fish to the water if they didn't want to keep it, or go ahead and clean it for sale at the market. In the evening, the fishermen would gather, and they would begin their fish tales. Could you believe it, or would you not believe it? Now they had proof. They could pull out their rice paper, open it up, and they could show the other fishermen exactly what they had caught. Even today, if you go to Japan, to some of the tackle shops and fish shops along the water, you will see these pieces of rice paper hung up on the wall for everyone to see. But if you see that, there's something special I want you to look for. Each fisherman had their very own chop. It was a stick of sandstone that they had carved with a design. In order to prove that that fish really belonged to them, after they made the print, they would dip this, it was like a stamp, into some red ink, and then they would stamp their print with their very special design. Underneath, sometimes they would write their name, maybe how big the fish was or where it was caught. It was proof that that fisherman had really caught that fish. So if you ever see these prints, if you want to know they're authentic and real, you can look for the chop mark on the prints. Now that's what the fishermen would do. But people really began to enjoy looking at the Gyotaku prints in all the stores. Artists began to want to take these prints and add a little color, a little design, some detail to them. So not only will you find Gyotaku prints that are just made out of sumi ink, you will see where artists have come and added watercolor to them to make them come alive off of the paper. Well, today, again, I'm hoping to catch one, and then I can make my own Gyotaku print. Now I want you to remember to stay safe and stay healthy. If you continue to watch our videos and you subscribe, I will continue to make story time and art activities and how to draws just for you. If you like our channel, you're going to love our High Gatsby Art History video series. It's taught by me and my little buddy Gatsby. Oh, have I got a story for you.